Hey folks, Dave here, and I like massive, huge, gigantic knife stores. Here to talk to you today about a trip that I had to one such after a relaxing weekend of caves and waterfalls, though thankfully not at the same time. I was fortunate enough to be able to stop at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, which, if you've picked up, is a huge, massive, gigantic knife store. And I would like to share with you just a little bit about stuff that I learned, pieces that I handled, and probably a lot of it will never be able to handle again. And some of it I don't want to handle again. So I learned a whole bunch, and I'd like to go through some of the stuff that I was able to put my hands on. Pretty special for me. So if you will keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times, we're about to venture off into the information superhighway. Let's have fun.
Hey folks, Dave back. I don't remember what the first half of my clever transition is, but hey, we're in the information superhighway. Welcome to Smoky Mountain Knife Works. I hate this website. I don't think it's well made, but we're going to roll on with it. For a couple of reasons that we're going to get into later. CRKT graphite, like so much of Cricket's designs, are fascinating and kind of a really cool proof of engineering concept. Not exactly a solid knife. And all of these obviously are very much my opinions, so shut up, I don't like this. Next is another Cricket, the Dactyl. This one is very intentionally just a proof of engineering concept and is very fun to play with. This bar right here, you gotta click it with your thumb and roll it out. Fascinating little thing. I'm sure that in time I'd be able to get good at it and be able to do it one-handed, but I only tried it with two. Fun thing to work with. This actually was the CRKT Tech Liner, is actually an interesting thing. This is a pin with magnets. So there's a magnet on either end of the caps, and this doesn't clip, it doesn't screw, it is just magnets. And it's a lot smaller, is my understanding, than the actual Tech Liner. This is a mass-produced version of a more expensive, maybe a custom piece. I'm not super familiar with the original Tech Liner. But I know that there are a lot of people who had issues with the original. This is a couple years old at this point. But there are several people that had issues with the original in that if you put things in your pocket with the cap, it would be very easy to knock it off. And as these are not really strong magnets, I'd have to agree with that in that would be a risk. So even as someone who likes pins as much as I do, it's not really of interest to me kind of for that purpose. I like security. Pins have opened in my pockets too many times. Now this was a fun one, and I didn't realize what it was until I tried to find it when I got home. This is the Ruger Go In Heavy, and they ain't kidding about going heavy. Check this out. 5-inch blade, 6 inches overall, almost a full out pound and a foot when open. This thing is massive. This thing is too big for them to have in their glass case. This thing was sitting on top of it. It's a liner lock and actually not very bad. Not a bad one. A lot better action than I was expecting. I was able to flick it open pretty well enough, although as this was kind of a traction piece, I'm sure it gets played with quite a bit more than everything else. Not a big fan of the handles, but this feels to me more of a gimmick than anything. It's a really big knife. Doesn't have a pocket clip or anything like that. It's real big, and that is its entire personality, including its name, is big. Not a big fan of it. This was a fun one. CRKT Home Front. This is the $300 version with M390 in titanium. I've always wanted to get my hands on a home front ever since they first came out, but just never ended up pulling the trigger. But this, I get a little bit more. I don't like that it's $300, obviously. I'm sure that if somebody sat me down and worked me through the numbers, that would end up making sense. I really don't like it. But the action on this is incredible. The materials obviously are more or less above reproach. The field strip technology, fun experience. I like this. Not something that I will probably ever own, but this is absolutely the pinnacle of what the home front is. This is its best representation. Personal opinion, I suppose. Next, again, I really don't like Smoky Mountain Knife Works' website, so we're going to have a little help on this one from a website that shall not be named, and this is looking at the Spyderco Canis. This was the first time I was able to put hands on it. I very much do not like carbon fiber as a handle material, and putting a layer of carbon fiber over G10 just feels pointless to me. I don't get it. But with that said, this is pretty crippy carbon fiber. There was no problem as I was handling this. I was expecting it to either be smooth. I think I was expecting it to be a bit smoother than it ended up being. I would have much rather if it just had handles like the PM2, just straight grip, fairly grippy G10 like the PM2. That's unfortunately not the case. But as far as its comparisons against a Yojimbo, which is one of my favorite knives, it has a similar design philosophy, primarily as a self-defense. You got the Warncliffe, you have the pretty slicey blade, designed by a Mr. National Defense man. Fascinating story behind this thing. But I think that I actually like it a little bit better than a Yojimbo. I don't know, I'm not sure about that. But just in that the blade does not seem to be as fragile a tip as what the Yojimbo has. It still does have the compression lock, which I love. I think that's my biggest thing, is that I trust the tip on this more than a Yojimbo. This picture doesn't do a good job of showing it. This tip is fairly reinforced, which is very cool. And a hugely slicey, so the opposite of huge, a very slicey blade at just a .11. Excellent knife that I very much hope to one day have my hands on it. When it comes M4 coated blade, I will have my hands on it. This is a Spyderco Indela, and this is something that I am very disappointed in so far, because this, and I'd rather the plain edge, but the one I actually handled was serrated, because this is a perfect size for me. But it is not waved, is not K390, it is not coated. Mr. Spyderco, if you love us and want us to be happy, you will give us an Indela that is coated, that is K390, and has a wave. It's not difficult, that's what you will do. And I'm sure with the Delica family receiving the K390 treatment now, that the Indela won't be very long behind, maybe a Christmas, maybe a next year kind of thing. I just really hope that a K390 wave follows shortly thereafter, because that would just be perfect. Another one I handled was the Spyderco Smock, which was hugely fun. Not well broken in at that time, although with the button compression lock, I'm sure that it does break in as much as I have seen. It becomes very fidgety. Good flipper, good knife, a little bit smaller than I was expecting. I do wish that the I do wish that the pocket clip was pushed up a little bit higher. I hate lanyard holes when they get treated as first-class citizens, but overall, decent enough piece, a bit smaller than I was expecting. Next, we have the Cold Steel 8015 with the Scorpion lock. This thing, again, is one of those that I'm sure that I would get more comfortable with using. I imagine the break-in period with the Scorpion lock, that it just takes a while to get used to. How you use this, it's very weird back strap lock. You use your forefinger and thumb to grab here and pull up while throwing the blade closed with your other hand. I'm not super comfortable playing with the lock. Again, I'm sure that I would be. But both this and the next one, the Cold Steel 8010, hot dog. Dude, these things feel planet killers. I mean, these things are amazing in the hand, and a whole lot lighter than I was expecting to also. At 7 ounces, this was still so much, no, don't zoom in, I didn't mean to click. This was still so much lighter than I was expecting. Felt incredible. Not something that I ever want, because this is absolutely not my style, but incredible knife, incredible knife. And here we have the utmost that is Cold Steel. This is everything that it wants to be. And when I saw it, you know I gotta play with the Espada. I saw this, I just looked at the guys behind the counter, I said, guys, y'all know what's gonna happen. They said, yeah, everybody has to play with the Espada. There's no conversation about the Espada. This thing is so much fun. I would love to have it. Of all the things on here, I was about to say that of all the things on this list that I will never have, that I would most want, this would be on that list, but I've got some killers coming up, so no. But I would love to have it. And it's actually partially because of this that the guy that I was talking to, the Spyderco Cold Steel and several of the next listings were all kind of at the same counter, so I talked to the same guy throughout. And one of the comments that he made to me that kind of caught me off guard is how boring, like his favorite knives, they're still coming up later, but he hated Spyderco and he didn't enjoy working the Spyderco booth. And the reason was that they all look the same to him. They all blend in once you, I kind of made the joke, once you see the hole in the compression lock, you're mostly good, right? He said, yeah, that's boring to him. He wants change. He wants stupid stuff because that's fun. And while I don't agree with him, I'm not saying that his opinions are stupid. I'm saying that, like, we're talking about the Espada here. It's a $500 sword. And, when you're talking about Cold Steel, when you're talking about some of these coming up later, you don't confuse the two for each other. Spyderco, it's got a whole Delica family of things that look the same and are based on the same platform, but there's nothing in the world that looks like this. And that was... Again, that's a point that I disagree with, but I absolutely understand it. I understand what he means. Nervously glances at Spyderco collection. I see where he's coming from. This, you're not confusing it with anything. Now, for the jewel of the whole piece, and what made me most upset to walk away from, and what I was not expecting, what I never thought in my entire life I would be able to handle, and I almost cried as I walked away from the booth. I got to play with an Olamic Wayfarer. Who saw that coming? I had no idea they'd have an Olamic booth at the Olamic counter at the booth. This thing is absolutely incredible. What's the listed weight? M390 titanium feels incredible. What's the listed weight? 3.5 inches. It's not a small blade. Where is it? You seriously don't have weight listed? Oh my gosh. Come on. Seriously. Oh, that's frustrating. I apologize. Oh, there we go. 4 ounces. Solid titanium, 3.5 inches, and it's under 4.2. This thing is incredible. The details, the machining. One of the things that I talk about a lot is like the lock bar cutout. And look at how tiny this is. There are 2 screws in there, and I'm sure they could have done it in one lock bar interface and the lock bar stabilizer. But the details on this, the flipper tab, the pocket clips canted to the side, it's got a rolly bit in there to help it in and out of your pocket. But the scallops are going to hold it in your pocket, and they're not going to eat it up when it's in there. The action is absurd. There's no explanation of how good the action on this thing is. Like, you look at it, and it just, suddenly it's open in your hand. Getting your thumb in there and opening this is incredible. I played with this for a solid few minutes talking to the guy, and finally kind of put it down and explained to him kind of my journey in the knife world jumped up from me playing with assisted opening Kershaw's to somebody handing me a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, and that was kind of a life-changing experience of, oh, this is what $100 gets you. Well, today I figured out, well, it's 1:30 when I'm recording this, so yesterday I found out what $500 buys you. I have had the conversation with people before that I believe that $300 was kind of the max of what money can get you, what money can actually get you in the knife world. That after that you're just buying diamonds and jewels and pocket jewelry. And to an extent, I absolutely believe that. I mean, to an extent, anything past an open L is pocket jewelry. But, since nothing that I have is $300, I don't know that I have the most informed opinion on that. But I now have an informed opinion on what $500 can get you. This thing's incredible. Absolutely beautiful. Fairly sterile. Olamic can get real jeweled up with a lot of stuff that they do, especially the buskers. But this thing's gorgeous, and I want to talk about it more, but I'm going to move on. But this thing's gorgeous, and it's beautiful, and I love it. And I'm going to move on, but I love this thing because it's beautiful and gorgeous and perfect. And that action, man, moving on. Olamic Wayfarer, man. It's gorgeous. I love it. Moving on. Now for one that made me legitimately sad. This is an experience I didn't want to have, which was weird. I saw the Hinderer booth, and I got so super excited, because I've always wanted to play with a Hinderer, and I don't have money to afford one. And I'll never have money to afford one, or no Olamic. But one can hope, right? The problem is that your dreams get dashed. See if I can zoom in. It's a heartbreaking experience. If it ever loads, which it might not. I don't know how much of this I'm going to cut out. There we go. None of it. Right there. Can I zoom in? No, I can't. It's not letting me zoom in. Anyway, right there, you see an intolerable sin. This is capital punishment territory, guys. I've got a couple of knives that do this. My SOG CLXR, I had to get a Dremel. Oh, I already told you. I had to get a Dremel to cut it out. But there is no jimping under the flipper tab. That's a no-no. That is a design flaw. I don't care about an explanation. I don't want anybody's, anything. There should never, ever, ever be jimping under the flipper tab. You flip it and your hand lands on sharp objects and it hurts. I have little tiny pathetic sissy hands, I understand, but it hurts. And it's a design flaw. And I really wish I had not discovered today that Hinderer XM18, a knife that I thought that I would love, that's just how they come. They have jimping under the flipper tab, and that's dead to me. I no longer have any interest in Hinderer XM18 at least, because they've got jimping down there. Sucks. Something I've never wanted and never had an interest in was this, which I knew at the time was way above my price range. I didn't realize it's $1,000 knife. Anyway, this is Medford USMC, and this is, again, Spyderco Olamic Cold Steel. This is all the same guy I was talking to, and he said that this was not his favorite knife, it was one of his, but he has a buddy who collects Medfords. And as we were talking kind of philosophy of use, he made the joke that, there are a lot of these that are, that are jewelry, that are cool, fidgety toys. He said this one is a tool. It's not even necessarily a knife first. It is a tool. And with the... And with the butt here, that's a solid hammer pommel. This thing's massive. Again, there's no way to explain how big the... What is it? The 1/5 of an inch thick, the 4 1/4 inch blade, the 10-ounce knife. This thing's massive. This thing is just massive. And there are a couple of details in here that I had never known before. The ball in the pocket clip, for instance. The stop pin. The stop pin on the blade, you can kind of see it right there. But there are cutouts in the handle that it lands in. Incredibly detailed piece. I will never have one and I don't want one, but I get it. Now are the Spartans, and this was the end of my journey with that specific guy. This is a Spartan Blades Horsey, and it has an incredible action. A little bit bigger than what I was expecting. What is it? 4 inches. I think my sweet range is 3.5 to 3 3/4. Kind of an Endura size. This is a little bit bigger, but solid piece. Incredible frame lock, incredible action. Kind of caught me weird. The pocket clip is just a thin sheet of, well, probably titanium, but I guess that I'm used to a little bit. I don't like cutouts in the pocket clip. That's a small point, but to the point of how sweet this knife is. A little bit later at one of the other booths, somebody else told me that this guy would have a Strider on him, so I went up to him and asked him if he did. He said that he had a Strider, but today he was carrying his Spartan Blades Horsey. And I think it was actually this exact design. But this was sitting beside the Horsey with a frog design and the Horsey with an angel design, stuff like that. And this was, the guy said Spartan Blades, they put love into their knives and make them special in a way that mass-produced, he was talking about Spyderco specifically, but mass-produced stuff just can't really keep up with, not nearly in the same way. So again, this is a total miss for me, but it's a solid knife. I really like it. Had a really good act. And the other one here that I thought was absolutely hilarious is their auto that they just recently came out with. Apparently, Smoky Mountain Knife Works recently wrote something about this. And the funny part for me is that it is a nearly sterile... Did you know that, wrote an article, you can read it here, the Spartan Blade Zelos is solidly sexy. I agree with that. That's a good word. And the funny part for me is the almost completely sterile blade, and it's got that pocket clip. Hot dog, is that loud. What I think the pocket clip is a sheet of titanium with, I don't know, some kind of design put on top of it. I don't know. The edges are super sharp though. I do not like that. And I also don't like that, again, the pocket clip is second-class citizen because we gotta leave room for the, what's the thing called? Lanyard. I don't care. I don't want one. Keep it off. Move the pocket clip up. But overall, solid action. With this, I'm pretty sure this is Spartan's first go at an auto knife. I mean, they nailed it. Again, we're at the website that shall not be named. But at the ProTech counter, I definitely wanted to play with a ProTech Strider. And it didn't let me down. It made me all the more sad that I missed the operator style drop with the completely sterile knife some time ago. What I was not expecting is how thick the handles are. And will it show how thick the handles are? It's not going to. But the handles, blur that. But the handles are very thick. Not something that I was necessarily expecting. When I was talking to the guy later that had a Strider, and had it at home, but that had a Strider, I was talking to him about this knife specifically, the ProTech Strider collaboration, and his flat out answer was that ProTech, and you can't tell how thick they are there, but his answer was ProTech Striders, ProTech has got nothing on a real Strider. He pointed to a counter over yonder and said, even those Marfione Custom got nothing on the build quality and solidity of a real Strider. And I'm hoping to be able to play with one day. Since they don't exist anymore and Strider is no longer in production, I probably never will. But I'd definitely love to, just kind of to get it in my hand and understand completely what it is that he means by that. Because I know they're solid workhorse knives. I'd love just to be able to play with one, and this was good for me. I'm glad that I was able to play with this. I really do want to play with a real Strider though. Getting into kind of the home stretch here, this is one that I've had my eyes on for a long time and has an incredible deal and has an incredible price anyway at the moment. The Deca is fast. You misspelled that. That's a typo. Smoky Mountain, you got a typo. The Deca is fast, smooth, and all around great, and I agree with that. What is it called? The Able Lock. It's access lock adjacent, is incredibly smooth. This thing is light. Steel liners on the inside come down to about the bottom of that triangle, I believe, maybe down to there, but they're not big. What I'm saying is this thing is incredibly light. Also a little bit smaller. I did not realize that it was designed by Alan Leischwitz. That's interesting. Well, he designs all of Hoke stuff, so fair enough. But incredible action. I was not expecting it to be as light as it was, but very solid feeling, no blade rock or anything like that. Very, very excited to see what continues to be produced now that the Access Lock is free range. We got the SOG Seal XR, we got the Hogue Deca. Guys, what is next? Let's keep this going and keep building some incredible stuff. Speaking of new stuff that is incredible, baby. Allow me to say again. Baby. This thing is huge. What is it? 3.75? Yeah. 15.6. 7 ounces. Massive. Is proudly overbit manual folder that you're going to love. Newsroom is nailing it with these headlines so far. This is absolutely beautiful and is so much lighter than I was expecting. So much lighter. Has a titanium liner under this G10. Incredible action. Ball bearing, it's around here somewhere. Ball bearing locks. This is absolutely incredible. I love this thing. And as my last one it's not the one that I wanted to see. I've been getting emails for the last week or so, last couple of weeks, for a 940 automatic. And I was so excited to put my hands on one. And I asked the guy if I can play with a 940 automatic. He comes over and hands me a mediator and tells me that don't worry, the 940 automatic, it's not the guy behind the counter didn't think it was an exclusive, so it should be available anywhere. It looks sweet. Smoky Mountain is the only place that I've been able to find it. I don't know when its release date is. Yesterday, I wish. But the mediator's pretty sweet. It's got good action. It's got S90V. It's light. It's smaller than I was expecting. Pretty sweet knife. Not necessarily what I was looking for, but it's pretty sweet. That is my trip to Smoky Mountain Knife Works. It's a pretty sweet place. It's an amazingly big place. It's massive. Everybody behind the counter is super helpful, and they're salesmen, so they're probably, haha, there we go. Okay, pre-order. When does it say it releases? Expected arrival. Okay, so July 15th, so sometime this or next month. But everybody there is so super helpful and so psyched to talk knives with you. I asked one of the guys, actually the ProTech guy, no, the guy who had the Strider. He was standing behind the Ultratech booth. I asked him, do you get to pick your own counter, or is it just assigned to you? I made the joke to him that there would be nothing more depressing in the world than working at a place like this and having to work like in the Rough Rider and the Schrade booth. Nothing against Schrade, I just think they're bad knives. But, oh, there's Rough Rider, Smith and, yeah, there we go. They're in the back here. And his response was, yes and no. If you know what you're talking about and you're buddies with the managers and like you can prove that you know what you're talking about, you can work any booth that you want. But if you don't, you're not careful, yeah, you're gonna end up with a crappy assignment. But this place is massive. The bottom floor is the Knife Cave. Is all Imtex and Mall Ninja stuff. They've got a gemstone store for some reason. They've got boots, but no backpacks. There's an advertisement for a Vertex Gamut backpack, which I very much want to play with to make sure that I do want to get one. But so there's an advertisement for the book bag, but they don't stock it, which is very frustrating. ZT308 and the Olamic Wayfarer. These are two of the best action that I have ever played with, and I want them. And my birthday's coming up, unrelated. Guys, I hope y'all have a great day. I hope that y'all support your local knife store. And if you're within driving range of one of the big ones, Knife Center, River's Edge, Blade HQ, Smoky Mountain, Nick's Knives, yada yada. If you're within driving range, man, go make a pilgrimage. Go check it out, see what it's about. Because it's a lot of fun. You're going to have a lot of fun there. Just be willing to spend 3 hours in the middle of a road trip. Have a great day.